so first up, you probably want to undo your wheel nuts before you actually get the car up on the hoist, as it could be a bit difficult later on. And then you want to get into the engine bay and get rid of any ancillary components like, say, the intercooler, any hoses, any lines, anything that's going to be in the way of you reaching the bell housing of the gearbox to undo it. Once we were done in the engine bay, we got the car up on the hoist, as you can see here. We took the wheels off, and then the next job was to take the whole exhaust off. So because there are 3 of us working on this, we could actually tackle a few tasks at once, like brakes and hubs and all that stuff. But one thing I will say that's very important, before you get too carried away, you want to actually crack the axle or drive shaft nuts off, because as you're about to see, they don't always come off quite nicely. So because of these stubborn nuts, we kind of had to break out the big guns. So next up, we drained the oil from the gearbox. And then next step was to remove the 4 bolts that hold the rear of the tail shaft of the diff, which you can see Adrian doing here. So yeah, then we'll just back down to the middle of the car for the last bracket. That's just got 2 bolts in it, which Adrian's undoing now, if you stop dropping his socket on the floor. Dude, look at this teamwork. Like, seriously, where do you find teamwork like this? Look at that, just beautiful. So then the shaft comes out, and happy days. Time to get onto something more fun, I think. So now it's time to really get serious. It's time to actually pull the gearbox out. So what we'll be doing is, as you can see Adrian doing at the moment, we got to get rid of this rear cross member. And then we can actually drop the gearbox down onto this chest here, and then we can undo the front cross member, undo the bell housing bolts, and then actually pull the box off. So we're now at the stage where the box is basically ready to come out. We've got all the cross members off, all the actual bolts holding it through the bell housing to the back of the motor out. We've got the starter motor off, the clutch slave cylinder off, and Adrian is just cleaning up any wires that are going to foul up as we lift the vehicle up and drop the box down. So we're about to take the box out, but there's one thing you need to do before you can do that, and that is actually removing the clutch fork pin. So as you can see here, the first step, you've got to undo the little cover, or I guess you call it a bung, which has got a 10mm hex socket, I'm pretty sure, which you can see here. Then you grab your humble 6mm bolt, and then you simply thread it into the end of the clutch fork pin. And then, you know, you just slide it out, as you can see here. And that's it. That's all there is to it.
Let's remove the box.
Alright guys, so the box is out. You can see here the back of the motor with the pressure plate and the clutch assembly. So the only thing left to do now is unbolt the pressure plate, take the clutch plate out, unbolt the flywheel, and start assembling all the new gear to put on. So when it comes to installing the clutch, obviously you now have your flywheel on and completely torqued to spec first, And then the next thing you need to do is grab your clutch plate and your pressure plate and then mount them to the flywheel. So as you can see here, Adrian has got a dummy input shaft which he's got through the middle there. That normally comes with your clutch kit, but if you don't have one, you're going to have to get one because it's crucial, because you need to line the splines up with both the clutch disc and the back of the crank where the input shaft of the gearbox goes into. Then the pressure plate just pushes on. There's a couple of locating dowels in the flywheel, so you've just got to spin it around till you find the right orientation, then torque them down to spec with the correct tightening sequence. So we have Adrian here prepping the box before it goes in the car. So as you can see here, here's the thrust bearing. He's just put a little bit of Newline L80 lithium grease, as you can see, on the splines of the input shaft. And then same again on all the contact faces of the clutch fork, as you can see here. And also a little bit inside the hole where the pin slides through. So the clutch fork then pushes up through the opening in the bell housing and then drops down into the two little slots in the thrust bearing. And then it's time to install the clutch fork. So again, just a little bit of grease on it. Then the old 6mm bolt trick. And then the insertion. So just quickly, there's actually a slot in the clutch fork pin which you can see has to push through and locate in this pin that's on the other side of the clutch fork assembly. So now you can carry on as you were. Except I just remembered one more tip. So as you can see here in the box, there's two locating dowels. So before you go to install the box, this might save you a lot of heartbreak later on. Make sure that they're either both in the box or the back of the motor. So we finally got the box in, and Adrian's slaving away doing a great job. And then kind of walk over here and what the f***? There's Brett sitting on his pink chair just cruising. What a life. Oh, I'm only kidding, bro. We all know your work. Look, here's some video proof. Look. Next up, we started prepping the 6-speed shifter for install. Brett actually got some new bushings. He got the Cartboy front and rear polyurethane bushings for the shifter assembly, which I think we actually came to the conclusion that you needed to get. I think it was mainly the rear one, because the stock 5-speed one doesn't let the shifter sit in the same position. So you'll either have to buy some new bushings or get some old ones from the 6-speed donor vehicle. So it's kind of hard to actually get some decent footage to explain exactly how this goes together, but it's pretty self-explanatory when you're actually up in there having a look at it. Beautiful.
See that, Pete?
Didn't see that.
Oh! Got the dropsies!
It's raining.
Nick minute.
So we get 12 wheel and...
Keep holding this. I'm holding it behind you, you walk away.
You're welcome.
I hope you guys didn't actually think I was going to leave you in the dark about hooking up the shifter assembly. So first step, you push the rear section of the shifter assembly into the bushing at the back. Then the next step is to get the reverse lockout cable sandwiched between the bolt that goes through the front shifter bushing, which bolts it to the gear selector. Then you just got to connect the cable to the corresponding connector on the box. It's kind of hard to show you, but I'm sure you'll see how it goes once you're actually up in there looking at it. And then all you have to do is get in the car and then finish off the rest of the install from the top. And of course, remember to bolt up your cross members for the gearbox, otherwise
you're gonna have a bad time.
So yeah, that is pretty much it when it comes to the actual box install itself. So all that's really left to do is just install the starter motor, the clutch slave cylinder, and everything else involved will be basically outlined in the next part or the next few parts of the series. So be sure to stay tuned.